This is a story from a long, long time ago. In London, where the chimneys were smoking, there was a child who was frightened to grow up, and so escaped. Peter Pan left his mom and his city and took refuge in a wonderful island called Neverland that only him and a few other dreamers were able to see. A crazy place where pirates, mermaids, and Indians lived. Children that were like him escaped from reality and were rescued on the magical island, and so they became Lost Boys. One night, Peter went back to London because he was attracted by a voice that was telling fairy tales. Caught by the stories, he came back several times until one day he lost his shadow in the house of the attractive voice. Peter tried to retrieve his shadow and stick it back on, having help from the fairy Tinkerbell, but with little success. He cried from this delusion. His sobbing was heard by the 3 children lying in their beds, Wendy, John, and Michael Darling. The pretty Wendy, touched by Peter's tears, sewed his shadow back on. To thank her, Peter decided to take her to Neverland. But Wendy, lovely and careful, could leave her brothers in London, so she decided to accept, but only if they could join her. Tinkerbell and Peter used fairy dust and happy thoughts so the Darling family were able to fly beside Peter toward Neverland. Everything seemed to go on smoothly. Once they arrived on the island, Wendy became the mother figure of the Lost Boys, telling them a fairy tale every night. One night, everything changed. The terrible Captain Hook kidnapped the boys, the Darling children, and the little tiger Lily, who was a close friend of Peter Pan and lived on a land named Squaw. Tinkerbell told Peter Pan of the kidnapping, and he flew to rescue them. After fighting the pirates, he fought Captain Hook, who had had his hand cut off years before and was eaten by a crocodile. Peter defeated the captain and rescued the Darlings. After so many adventures, they decided to go back to London. Peter took them back home, and all the rest of the Lost Boys were adopted by the Darling family. Peter was offered to stay with them, but he refused. From that time on, he came back every night to hear the stories from the window in Wendy's room until she grew up and had a little baby girl. Peter, who was frightened to grow up, remained a child forever.
Mary's Christmas, a little girl, a little song, a little long line under the strong, a little bit oh. Respiri piano per non far rumore, ti addormenti di sera, ti risvegli col sole, sei chiara come un'alba e sei fresca come l'aria.